All right, everybody. Thank you for coming along today. We've got Elizabeth, who's our client, who's available for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. And she's also made a beautiful video, which we'll start with. So I'll just get that rolling. Hang on a minute. So I'll share this one.
Good.
All right, that was fantastic. I loved it. Love seeing Joey, star of the show. So really good. Okay, so now I'm going to just pull up my presentation. We've still got heaps of people coming in, so it's going to be a full house today, which is great. So I'll just give it a couple more minutes. So how long did that take to make that video, Elizabeth?
Oh, literally what you saw. I just walked through the house.
Looked really good. Did we? Yeah, we got up to the roof deck?
No, I think it cut out before then.
Ah, let me just see. All right, let me try and get that bit at the again, because that was beautiful. Here we go. Hang on. No, that's mine. Sorry. What happened? Why? Let me just.
Go about with about a quarter of the way to go, I think.
Yeah.
Upstairs, back a bit, about there, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's keep going.
Melbourne. Terrible weather. Grey, grey, bleak grey.
I love the comment. Are you all right?
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. Yes.
Great. Well done, Elizabeth. Amazing.
Oh, it was beautiful, Ben.
Thanks, Becky.
All right. All right. So if everyone can, if everyone's not on mute, if they can put themselves on mute. Thank you. All right, so I'll put this up on full screen. So we are at the Bustle house, and you've just seen a beautiful video that Elizabeth made for us walking around the house, which is really great because you see the reality of the house and how it is in everyday life, whereas now you'll see the glamour photos that we took. So this house is really, we call it a portrait of two ladies. And when I came to first see Elizabeth at the house, she talked about the house as the old lady, and as though it has a soul. And what's interesting about this house is it was really held by one family until Elizabeth bought it some, it would have been 15 years ago now, Elizabeth, or maybe a bit longer.
Yeah, about 15's right. Yep.
Yeah, and so we really love this concept of two women owning and being the soul of this house. The other thing that we liked is the nature of the Victorian terrace is very much generally is adorned on the front elevations, and the sides are left exposed, as you can see here. And what we wanted to do is look at the house inside profile, because it's on a corner block here. It's really important to think about how it engages with the street. But look, exploring the idea of how we address and give personality to the side of the house. We looked at Victorian ladies and thinking about the original owner of the house in Victorian times. And Victorian ladies were often portrayed in side profile in art and their portraits and the like. So, and when you see them in side profile, you see, I'm just going to find here. So here you see this is our conceptual image, looking at the Victorian lady in side profile and the importance of the bustle as a. So we went on and sort of explored this and basically applied a bustle to the side of the house as our new extension. So the house, it's an interesting site as well because it's located in Ruckus Hill in Northcote. And this is the site where John Batman's 1835 treaty and the purchase of Melbourne from the people of the Kulin Nation actually occurred. And it was a land, sort of a field of native grasses, and our landscape architect really brought this to our attention, and she applied those the indigenous grasses and reinstalled them on the site as well, which is a beautiful story. So the garden is a really important part of the house as well. So this idea of the side elevation and the landscape became intertwined, particularly in the fence. So you can see here the idea of the bustle and the cage, which creates the form. So we really use that in the shape of the house. And timber became our fabric. And the fence is like the train of the bustle. So what then came into play was looking at other elements of the bustle and the fashion of the time, the importance of lace. So ironwork became our lace, which you can see up here on the roof deck. And then the embroidery was the planting. So along the inside and the outside of the fence, we embroidered it with planting. So the extension itself, so it's a north-facing backyard. The extension that we had was the dining, sort of kitchen, laundry, bathroom area. And we wanted to really kind of leave the old house alone very much because the way it was already lived in and the way it was weathering, we just thought was really beautiful. We didn't want to polish it up. We didn't want to, as I say, Botox it. We wanted to just leave it to age gracefully, and our new addition to age alongside with it. So you can see the sense of time of the original house and the new house. And the interconnection with the street was also really important, and how the community, the local community, do really interact with each other along this street. And you could see those people sort of sitting on the fence in the video. And so this new window was a really important part of that, being able to look out to the street, and also the permeability of the fence. So having a fence with those curves in it, there's areas where it opens up and you can sort of see through into the garden, and areas where it closes up and you sort of it screens your view. But having that connection with the street, both from roof level and through the penetrations that allow you some view into the house, and the gate and the fence, all sort of really add to that dynamic local culture. And on top, you can see here we've got the roof terrace, which is connected to the first floor of the house. It's Elizabeth and Takis up on the roof deck. And the interior as well, we really wanted to carry those materials through, and that sort of sense of materiality and sort of adornment, and so a lot of, but also weathering. So the materials are allowed to kind of weather with age. And we looked at sort of the beginning of the job. Elizabeth had fantastic images of some 1950s movies and Italian film stars and things like that. So I looked as well at a lot of old sort of Italian shops and interiors, and how, you know, in those in Italy, you see how things are just sort of applied and layered over time. And one thing that we started with here was this terrazzo, which we actually bought before we even drew the house, which was very risky. But and we didn't quite have enough in the end. So then what we did is went and got some limestone and infilled the floor with limestone as well, which I think really just adds to that idea of layering and just letting things evolve over time. But all the other materials are really quite robust and will weather and patina over time, such as the concrete bench top. the raw brass tapware, even the terracotta tiles, everything is sort of left untreated, and same with the timber cladding. That is the same cladding from the inside. We brought out from the outside, we brought inside as well. So it has that integrity to the form and the architecture, that the blockwork and the timber is the same inside and out. And there's that beautiful window that you can see that looks out to the street. And even the bathroom with the mosaic. So we really wanted to reinforce that idea of embroidery and decoration, and that sort of richness of the sort of Victorian fashion through the sort of selection of materials that we used here as well. And here you can see that beautiful sort of connection to the landscape and back to the street. So there's always that sort of strong connection to the street. And this is in the old part of the house. So this is sort of the only sort of tampering we did with the old part of the house, was to create this new opening between the old and the new, which we weren't going to do originally, but as we sort of moved through construction, Elizabeth and Taka sort of became more interested in the idea of opening up this living room to the new part of the house. And I think that was a very, really good move. So you can see in the old part of the house, we really haven't touched anything. Elizabeth's got beautiful style and great objects, and we didn't want to overdo this. And I think that's important sometimes, learning when to just leave things alone and touch things lightly. So we just didn't need to do anything here. It was very beautiful the way it was. And here's the sort of the last piece of the old part of the house. There was an old lean-to on the back here, and we kept the original wall and just carved it away to sort of reveal a part of that beautiful west-facing window. And then that, carrying that sort of that base blue stone across with the new blockwork. So we have that continuity of the line and connection between the old and the new. And at night, so here you can see the fantastic landscape. So a lot of the trees, were original, but so we had the grasslands that Joe Ferguson, the landscape architect, introduced into the landscape. But she also, Elizabeth also talked about growing up in a concrete backyard in Western Sydney, which was also reintroduced, and also Takis's pencil pines from Greece. So there's a real mix of landscapes in this one landscape. So what's nice about this, I think, is that we've sort of got two entries to the house now. I mean, I never go to the front door personally. I always go to the side. And I'm sure Elizabeth will have some great stories to tell us about how people approach this house. So if anyone has any questions now, feel free to unmute and start some questions.
Oh, Fiona, it's Dana speaking.
Hi, Dana. How you going?
Good, thank you. I just noticed that you had a different height level between the old and the new place. Was that deliberate, or is that just you had to do that for some building requirement?
No, we're basically working with the ground levels outside. So we wanted to connect our new living space with the ground levels outside. So get it as close to ground level there as possible. And obviously the fall of the site, so it's higher at the back to the front. So we sort of did that, and then we stepped down to the new part of the house. So you can see even in the images, which if I share them again. So you can see here, oh, sorry, I'll just make that a little bit smaller, how close we are to the ground level here, but you can see in this lower image here, how there is that fall to the site. Does that make sense?
Yes, yep. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a full house. Sorry, I know people are trying to get in, but we're at our capacity. So anyway, any other questions? Let's see if there's anyone. Does this house have a car park? No, it did originally. And it was a conscious decision of Elizabeth's to not have a car park in there at the end of the day, but they've got their car sitting on the street. But I think it's not used very often, and sort of not important to have that garaged or anything like that. Is there an image of the other side of the house? No, we don't have one, but it's very similar to the street side of the house. And that, what type of timber did you use for the cladding of the fence? That is a silver top ash, which we did oil. We let it weather a bit first. There was quite an art to getting this colour right. So with Elizabeth, again, we did a lot of testing and waited until we got just the right sort of level of aging before Elizabeth oiled all the cladding and the timber. So that's that one. In hindsight, anything you would have chosen to do differently? I don't think so. Not that I can think of. Elizabeth, what about you?
No, there's nothing I'd choose to do differently. I think the one lesson I've learnt from the whole project is patience. I think that not with you necessarily, Fiona, but I just think over time, to not be in such a hurry to get the latest thing or the thing that you think is in vogue right now, because chances are it just won't be. So that's like when I found those tiles, that was I think even 6 months before I spoke to you.
Yeah.
And I just loved the tiles. And I think that if you're attracted to things that you really like, I think you weave them into the whole story, and I think that does take patience.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good lesson, and it's something that, as an interior designer too, I don't like having to rush to buy everything for the house, you know, straight away, and let things evolve. And we'll often work with clients over years and just let the house evolve and find, you know, we'll find things as time goes on. You know, in some instances it might take a few years to find the right chair for the dining room and things like that. So we're always in contact with our clients like Elizabeth, and so whenever they want something new for the house, they can always come back to us and we'll, you know, find it when they're ready. And I think you can see that richness in this house, like how Elizabeth's just found things over time and let the house evolve, which is really, really important. Okay, so a few more questions here. In height, we've talked about that one. Where the new extension is, was there originally an outhouse? Yeah, there was an outbuilding there. It was very, it was Takis's tank room at the back, so all his for scuba diving. And the kitchen was in there as well. And I think it was very, very original. And you can see upstairs in Elizabeth's video, like how we didn't actually touch the bathroom upstairs at all. We left that as it was. So that's interesting. So what was the decision behind the bathroom being behind the kitchen? Well, the nice thing about that bathroom is, I mean, one, we needed a bathroom downstairs, and we didn't want to tamper with the original 2 rooms at the front of the house, if you call it that. And it's just a nice, easy access to this new living space. And the other beauty of it is you can stand in the shower and have a view to the garden, or sit in the toilet and have a bit of a view to the garden. So that's pretty nice as well. Someone's asked how much. We're not going to talk about cost today, sorry. And pros and cons of the side entrance. So maybe Elizabeth, you can answer that question. Talk about the side entrance a bit and how it's used.
I think the side entrance is great because it just feels like it's not a big grand opening. It's like your best girlfriends or your family always use the side door.
Yeah.
So the fact that everybody uses the side door, I think, makes me feel like everyone's welcome, and it's not this grand entrance. Not that the front's grand by any means. It actually looks quite ramshackle. But I like people just coming in from the side, and I like the sound of a gate. I think it always sounds nice. It makes you feel like, oh, good, I've got company and the people have arrived. So, yeah, the sound of a gate is really nice.
Yeah, it is definitely the haunted house on the hill.
Yeah.
And we love that sort of the old ramshackle nature of the front and wanted to keep that. But I think you're about to start doing some gardening out the front now.
Yeah.
Make it slightly less ramshackle.
Yeah.
Ashok's got a question. How long was the design process? Oh, it generally takes sort of 2 years start to finish, and I think we're pretty much at that sort of time frame as well. So it's usually sort of a year of design and costing and getting the builder on board, and then I think it was probably about a 9-month build, Elizabeth, off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Round
Yep.
about there.
Mm.
Yeah. So that sort of gives you a bit of an idea. Then from Ryan, I noticed the radiators in the original part of the house. What was done for heating in the addition? So we've got in-slab hydronic, which is beautiful. So if anyone's experienced that, it's just it's just really warm underfoot, and so the heat actually goes directly through your body, which is really lovely. Yeah, so if anyone else wants to sort of type, or you can unmute and ask a question as well, you're most welcome. I think we're done. All right.
Fiona,
Yes.
being on a natural grassland, you're obviously on Merry Creek clay. What are the shrink swell issues associated with construction?
Oh, yes, we are. So this area obviously has quite volatile soil, and what that means is the footings that we use need to be highly engineered, and they're very deep. They'd probably be about 1.5 metres deep, I'd say, around here. So it's yeah, it is volatile, but I don't think ever since it's been done, I don't think there's any particular major movement issues. But it is something you have to watch, particularly in the old houses. You'll see them crack and move, and because their footings are nowhere near as deep, obviously. Yeah.
When the footings were being put in, quite a few people were passing by, and their comments were they wanted to know if a new embassy was being built here. They were so deep.
Because Elizabeth lived in the house while it was being built, which I generally don't allow clients to do, but in this case it was fine. It worked well. So, all right. Oh, here's some more questions. All right. So what sort of wood in the kitchen joinery and how is it treated? That's from David. So that is a Tassie oak. And I think it's a crown cut. I'll just show some pictures of that again. Let me find some. Here we are. So this is the kitchen. So that's Tasmanian oak. It is a crown cut oak, so it has quite a bit of movement through it, and it's got what's called a 2-pack polyurethane finish on it. So that's quite sort of, it's well sealed basically. That is a concrete bench, and then we've got sort of terracotta tiles that we left unsealed. Often we'll seal those, but in this case we wanted to let them sort of weather and patina over time. So that's pretty nice. And then this timber here we've left untreated internally, and that's the silver top ash that you can see there. Sorry, I have to stop sharing just so I can just see if there's any more questions. From Barbara, was the concrete bench in the kitchen poured in situ, or was it prefabricated? It was poured in situ, and it's actually got a cooktop in it is sitting flush, so it's quite precise level of engineering involved with the kitchen bench top. But one thing I do have to say about concrete benches is they're porous, and you need to accept that. So anyone who's thinking about doing it needs to be aware that they will mark and patina over time, very much like stone. There was a question about the contract. What type of contract was the build, lump sum or cost plus? It was lump sum. It was a lump sum ABIC contract, which is Australian Institute of Architects contract, but that still means that there is scope for variations. So if, and in our case, especially with these old houses, once you pull them apart, there's things that you find like asbestos and the like. So it's important to have contingency in place for anyone who's thinking about renovating, so that you have some money on the side for variations. Were there any heritage issues with this building? This is a heritage listed building, yes. And no, because our new extension was quite modest and set back from the street, council was very supportive of what we were doing. We weren't trying to overtake the building, and we were respecting the old building. So that's very much my approach, is to defer to the old. All right, I think that's pretty much it. We're on our half an hour now. I know there's other house tours on. Next is Architecture, if anyone's interested in that one. It's a fantastic building as well. So thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us.
Thanks, Fiona.
Yeah, it's great to have you here and great to see the house, and we love the video. So I hope you all enjoyed it, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you next year in reality for Open House Melbourne.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.